The darkness of space had never looked so terrifying. Commander Velthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching 50,000 warships form a deadly circle around Earth's solar system. Ships from 12 different alien species floated in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. The Veltari had blue-scaled skin and razor-sharp teeth. The Mordok looked like giant insects with metallic wings. The Zixara resembled walking crystals that sparkled. In the starlight, all of them had come here for one purpose: to crush humanity once and for all. Velthak had been planning this attack for 3 years. Human ships had been spotted in distant star systems, exploring and claiming new worlds. The aliens couldn't allow this expansion to continue. Humans were too unpredictable, too dangerous. Better to end their threat now, while they were still contained in their home system. Intelligence reports show the humans have at least 5,000 warships. His second-in-command had told him during planning. Maybe more. Their technology is advancing rapidly. That's why they brought 50,000 ships. 10-to-1 odds seemed safe enough, even against the clever humans. Velthak had seen what human engineers could do. They built things differently. Thought of solutions no one else considered. The numbers were numbers. Physics was physics. No amount of creativity could overcome such overwhelming force. The alien fleet had been waiting for hours, weapons ready, expecting a massive battle. Velthak imagined waves of human ships pouring out from behind planets and moons. He expected clever tactics, surprise attacks, maybe even some new weapon they hadn't seen before. What he didn't expect was silence. "Commander," his tactical officer called out, voice filled with confusion. "Something's happening." Velthak's 4 eyes focused on the main display. A single dot appeared on the scanner, emerging slowly from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. At first he thought it might be a scout ship, sent ahead to assess their forces. But as it came closer, the readings became clearer. "It's big, sir. 3 kilometers long. Definitely military design." "Where are the others?" Velthak demanded. "Run deep scans. Check behind every moon, every planet. They must be hiding somewhere." His crew worked frantically, their instruments sweeping across the entire solar system. Minutes passed, then an hour. The results were always the same. "Sir, we're detecting no other large vessels. No fleet formations, no hidden bases. Just this one ship." Velthak felt his blood turn cold. This made no sense. No species in Galactic history had ever sent a single ship against such odds. It was suicide. Unless... ... double quotes. "What if it's not really alone?" whispered his communications officer. "What if there's something we can't see?" The lone human ship continued its steady approach, making no threatening moves. It wasn't trying to hide or run away. It seemed almost casual, like it was taking a peaceful stroll through space. This confidence terrified Velthak more than any weapon. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Maintain formation, but stay alert. Something's very wrong here." As the human vessel drew closer, Velthak couldn't shake the feeling that they had walked into a trap. But what kind of trap could one ship set against 50,000? Captain Kim Jae sat quietly in his command chair, watching the alien fleet through the main view screen. The Serenity felt peaceful despite being surrounded by 50,000 enemy ships. His crew of 47 worked at their stations with the calm confidence that came from years of training together. No one seemed nervous. No one was panicking. They all knew exactly what they were doing. Lieutenant Park Min sat at the communications station, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Incoming transmission, Captain. It's from their flagship." "Put it through," Jay said, straightening his dark blue uniform. He had been expecting this call. The view screen flickered to life, revealing Commander Velthak's alien face. The creature looked like a cross between a shark and a lizard, with blue scales and 4 glowing eyes. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and when it spoke, its voice carried the authority of someone used to being feared. "This is Commander Velthak, of the Veltari Collective. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 50,000 to 1. Where is your fleet?" Jay looked directly into the camera, his expression calm and professional. "Commander, I am Captain Kim Jae of the Earth Defense Corps. I am here to discuss terms. The alien's four eyes widened in shock. Terms you send one ship against our entire armada? We send what is necessary, Jay replied simply. Behind the captain, his crew continued their work. Chief Engineer Lee Han monitored the ship's power systems, making small adjustments to keep everything running smoothly. Navigation Officer Choi Yu tracked their position relative to the alien fleet. Weapons Officer Song Min kept his hands near. His controls, ready, but not aggressive. Commander Velthak's image seemed to flicker with confusion. Are you insane? We have 50,000 warships. You have one. This is not a negotiation.
Ow.
I understand your confusion, Jay said, his voice remaining steady. But I assure you, we are here to prevent unnecessary bloodshed, both yours and ours. The alien commander's mandibles clicked together, a sound that meant he was either angry or nervous. Prevent bloodshed? Human, you are in no position to prevent anything. One ship cannot stand against our might. Perhaps, Jay acknowledged. But before we discuss surrender, shouldn't we first establish what each side is capable of? On the bridge of the Serenity, the atmosphere remained remarkably calm. These humans had trained for this moment for years. Every officer knew their role. Every system had been tested and retested. They weren't here by accident, and they weren't here to die. You speak in riddles, Velthak growled. What capabilities could one ship possibly have against our fleet? Jay leaned back in his chair slightly. Commander, in our history, we have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Perhaps. We should demonstrate what we mean. The alien's expression shifted from confusion to suspicion. Demonstrate? What kind of demonstration? The kind that will help us avoid a war that nobody really wants, Jay replied. After all, you came here expecting to fight thousands of ships. Instead, you found one. Don't you think that should tell you something? The communication channel went quiet for a moment. Through the view screen, they could see the alien commander talking to his officers, though the audio was muted. Finally, Velthak returned his attention to the human captain. You have 5 minutes to explain yourself before we open fire? Jay smiled slightly. 5 minutes should be more than enough. The Emergency War Council meeting aboard the Eternal Dominion was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Representatives from 12 different alien species filled the massive conference room, their voices rising in heated argument. Some spoke through translators, others communicated through color changes on their skin, and a few used telepathic links. But they all shared the same confusion and growing fear. General of the hegemony slammed his massive fist on the table. He looked like a giant beetle, with thick armor plating and 6 arms. It's clearly a trap, he insisted, his voice booming through the chamber. No species in galactic history would send a single ship against such odds unless they had something planned, something we don't know about. Admiral Zixara, whose crystal-like body sparkled with nervous energy, added her concerns. Our intelligence reports from the past 5 years all suggest humans possess thousands of warships. We've seen their shipyards on Mars. We've detected their mining operations in the asteroid belt. They should have a massive fleet by now. So where are they? Commander Velthak stood at the head of the table, his 4 eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the lone human ship. That's what worries me most, he admitted. Our scouts have been watching human space for years. They've reported seeing hundreds of ships under construction, military vessels, heavily armed, yet we find only one. A representative from the Kethmori species, who looked like a walking tree with glowing bark, spoke up. Perhaps their fleet is hiding in another star system, waiting to attack us from behind. We would have detected their jump signatures. Countered the Veltari tactical officer. Our sensors can track hyperspace movements from 50 light-years away. No large fleet has moved in this sector for months. General Mordok's mandibles clicked anxiously. Then where are they? Did they evacuate their fleet? Are they planning to abandon Earth? No, Velthak said firmly. That ship out there isn't running. It's not trying to escape or buy time. It's just sitting there, waiting, like it has all the time in the world. The alien commander turned to his science officer, a thin creature with multiple eyes on stalks. Show them the energy readings. The main display switched to show detailed scans of the human vessel. Strange patterns of energy flowed through its hull, unlike anything in their databases. The power signatures were completely foreign, following principles that didn't match any known technology. "This is what troubles me most," Velthok explained. "Those energy patterns don't match any human technology we've encountered before. They're not using fusion reactors or antimatter engines. This is something else entirely." Admiral Zixara's crystal body flickered with alarm. Could it be a weapon we don't recognize? Or a new type of shield technology, suggested another officer. Something that makes their single ship equivalent to a fleet. Veltok opened a communication channel to the human ship. "Captain Kim, our scans are detecting unusual energy patterns. From your vessel, these signatures don't match any known human technology in our databases. Please explain your ship's power source." The response came back calm and unhurried. "Standard human engineering, Commander. Nothing more standard." Velthek's voice rose. "Captain, these readings are unlike anything we've seen from human ships before. What kind of modifications have you made?" "We've made many improvements over the years," Captain Kim replied. "Human technology doesn't stand still. We adapt, we evolve, we find better ways to do things." General Mordok leaned forward. "He's not telling us everything. No single ship could generate those power levels without some kind of revolutionary technology. The question is," Admiral Zixara said quietly, "what are they planning to do with all that power?" The alien leaders looked at each other with growing unease. Every military doctrine they knew said that one ship couldn't threaten 50,000. But those energy readings suggested something was very different about this encounter. Captain Kim Velthak transmitted again, "We need a clearer explanation of your capabilities." "Would you prefer a demonstration?" came the reply. The room fell silent. The tension in space had reached a breaking point. For over an hour, the alien fleet had demanded answers while Captain Kim Jae remained mysteriously calm. The 50,000 ships waited in their attack formation, weapons powered and ready, while the single human vessel sat peacefully in the middle of their circle. Captain Commander Velthak's voice crackled through the communication system. "You have tested our patience long enough. Either explain your presence here, or we will consider you hostile." "I understand your frustration," Jay replied from his command chair. "Words can only explain so much. Perhaps it would be better to show you why Earth sent only one ship." The alien commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "Show us what?" "It's permission to demonstrate our capabilities." Before Veltek could respond, something changed on the Serenity. The strange energy patterns that had been puzzling the alien sensors suddenly shifted and focused. Captain Jay turned to his weapons officer, Song Min. "Target the asteroid cluster at bearing 27 Mark IV. The small one, about 15 kilometers out." "Targeting now, sir," Songmin replied, his fingers moving across his controls with practiced precision. On the alien flagship, alarms began ringing. "Commander," the tactical officer called out, "the human ship is charging some kind of weapon. Energy levels are off the charts. All ships raise shields," Velthik ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." But the Serenity wasn't aiming at the alien fleet. Instead, it pointed toward a small cluster of asteroids floating nearby. These space rocks had been drifting in the void for millions of years. It's just ordinary chunks of stone and metal that posed no threat to anyone. "Firing," Song Min announced calmly. What happened next defied everything the aliens thought they knew about warfare. A beam of light shot out from the Serenity, but it wasn't like any weapon they had ever seen. The beam itself seemed to bend reality around it, creating ripples in space that made their sensors go crazy. When the light touched the first asteroid, something impossible occurred.
Ow.
The rock didn't explode into pieces like normal weapons would cause. It didn't melt or vaporize. Instead, it simply stopped existing. The matter that had made up the asteroid converted directly into pure energy, creating a chain reaction that spread to the other rocks in the cluster. Within seconds, the entire asteroid field transformed into a brilliant ball of light. The energy release was so massive that it created an artificial star, burning bright enough to be seen from 3 star systems away. The light was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a miniature sun that lasted for nearly a full minute before fading. Away, the alien fleet fell completely silent. 50,000 ships, representing 12 different species and millions of years of military development, sat in stunned disbelief. Their sensors couldn't even process what they had just witnessed. What kind of weapon was that? Velthak's voice shook as he spoke. Captain Jay's reply came back with the same calm tone he had used throughout the encounter. An old human saying, "Commander, why use many when one will do?" On the bridge of the Serenity, the crew continued their work as if nothing unusual had happened. Lieutenant Parkman checked her communication systems. Chief Engineer Lee Han monitored the weapon's power consumption. Navigation Officer Choi Yu plotted their next course. To them, this was just another day at work. Commander Jay continued. You brought 50,000 ships because you expected to fight thousands of human vessels. But we've learned that the right tool for the job is often better than having many tools. The artificial star finally faded, completely, leaving only empty space where the asteroids had been. The demonstration was over, but its impact would last forever. The silence that followed the demonstration was deafening. Across 50,000 ships, millions of alien soldiers stared at empty space where a cluster of asteroids had existed just moments before. Their instruments showed nothing but background radiation and the fading energy signatures of matter that had been converted to pure light. Captain, Kim Jae allowed the silence to stretch for nearly a minute. He wanted the aliens to fully understand what they had witnessed before he explained the truth behind it. On his bridge, the crew worked quietly, running diagnostics on the weapon system and preparing for whatever came next. Commander Veltek J finally said, his voice cutting through the stunned quiet, I believe you have questions. The alien commander's image flickered back to life on the view screen. His 4 eyes were wide with shock, and his blue scales had turned a pale gray color. How is this possible? No single weapon should be able to do what we just saw. You're thinking about this the wrong way, Jay replied. 50 years ago, humanity faced a choice. We could build 10,000 ships and fight the old way. Or we could build one ship that could do what 10,000 could not. We chose efficiency. General Mordok's voice broke through the communication channel. Efficiency? You call that efficiency? You've just created a star from nothing? Not from nothing, Jay corrected. It's from matter that already existed. Simply converted it to energy using principles that most species haven't discovered yet. Admiral. Zixara's crystal body was flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. What kind of principles? What technology are you using? Captain Jay leaned back in his chair. For the past 50 years, while other species have been building bigger ships and more powerful guns, humanity has been working on something different. We've been learning to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The words sent chills through the alien fleet. Commander Velthik's mandibles clicked nervously. You're talking about quantum manipulation. Space-time distortion. These are theoretical concepts. They were theoretical, Jay agreed.
Oh.
But theory becomes reality when you have the right people working on the right problems. The Serenity isn't just a ship, Commander. It's a mobile platform. For humanity's greatest achievement, on the bridge, Chief Engineer Lee Han smiled slightly as he monitored the quantum field generators. Years of work had led to this moment. The technology that powered their ship was beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. One ship, Jay continued, can now do what entire fleets once required. This is humanity's answer to overwhelming odds. Alien Coalition was beginning to understand the terrible truth. They hadn't surrounded a desperate human vessel making a last stand. They had cornered a predator that had been quietly evolving while they weren't looking. How many ships like this do you have? Svelthak asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Enough, Jay replied simply. Earth has been busy while you've been planning this invasion. We built 17 ships with similar capabilities. Each one can do what you just witnessed. The mathematics were horrifying. One ship could destroy asteroid clusters by converting matter to energy. What could 17 ships do to planets? to entire star systems. The aliens realized they weren't just outgunned, they were facing a species that had transcended conventional warfare entirely. "But why reveal this now?" asked Admiral Zixera. "You could have hidden this technology, used it as a surprise weapon." Because Jay said, "We prefer to solve problems with words rather than weapons. What you've seen today is not a threat, it's an explanation. We want you to understand exactly what kind of conflict you're considering before you make your final decision." The alien fleet hung in space. 50,000 ships suddenly feeling very small and very vulnerable. The weight of the moment settled over the Serenity's bridge like a heavy blanket. Captain Kim Jae stood up from his command chair, his movements slow and deliberate. Every word he spoke next would be recorded in history books across the galaxy. The fate of millions of lives hung in the balance. "Commander Velthak," he began, his voice carrying the authority of Earth itself, "I believe we've reached the point where we need to discuss concrete terms." The alien commander's image on the view screen showed a creature struggling to maintain composure. His 4 eyes darted between his own tactical displays and the human captain's calm face. "Terms, you speak as if you're in a position to negotiate." "I am," Jay replied simply. "Withdraw from human space immediately. Agree to a permanent non-aggression pact between your coalition and Earth. These are our terms." The silence that followed was broken only by the hum of ship systems and the distant chatter of alien communications across the fleet. 50,000 ships waited for their commanders to respond to what sounded like an impossible demand. General Mordok's voice burst through the communication channel. "You cannot be serious. 1 ship against 50,000, and you're making demands?" "The numbers have changed," General Jay said calmly. "What you thought was 50,000 against 1 is actually 50,000 against technology that makes numbers irrelevant." Commander Velthak's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. "And if we refuse your terms, what then, Captain?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Every alien officer in the fleet knew the answer before Jay spoke, but they needed to hear it said aloud. "Then you will discover why humanity chose to develop this technology rather than simply build more ships," Jay replied. "We have 17 more vessels like the Serenity. Each one can sterilize an entire star system." The words hit the alien fleet like a physical blow. On bridges across the Armada, tactical officers ran quick calculations. 18 ships with the power to destroy star systems. The Coalition controlled 43 star systems. The mathematics were brutally simple. Admiral Zixera's crystal body flickered with patterns of fear. "You're threatening genocide." "I'm stating capabilities," Jay corrected. "What happens next depends entirely on your choices. We would prefer to never use these weapons in anger, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." On the bridge of the Serenity, the crew maintained their professional calm. Lieutenant Parkman monitored communications from the alien fleet, listening to the panicked chatter between ships. Chief Engineer Lee Han kept the quantum field generators running at optimal levels. Navigation Officer Choi, you plotted escape routes in case diplomacy failed. They all knew their captain wasn't bluffing. Earth had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, and the Serenity was just the beginning. "Your entire military doctrine is based on numbers," Jay continued. "More ships, more weapons, more soldiers. But we've learned that the right tool, at the right time, is worth more than 1,000 of the wrong tools." General Mordok's voice shook with rage. "You cannot defeat the entire galaxy with 18 ships." "We don't want to defeat the galaxy," Jay replied. "We want to be left alone to explore space in peace. But if you force us to fight, we will fight with everything we have." The alien coalition's military leaders looked at each other through their communication channels. Everything they had learned about warfare over millions of years had become obsolete in a single demonstration. Ships that could rewrite the laws of physics made conventional fleets as useless as stone axes against laser rifles. "How long do we have to decide?" Velthak asked quietly. "Take all the time you need," Jay said. "But remember, every minute you spend here is a minute you're not withdrawing from human space." The ultimatum was clear, and the consequences of refusing it were unthinkable. the emergency war council aboard the Eternal. Dominion had become a nightmare of confusion and fear. 12 different species, each proud of their military heritage, sat around the massive conference table in stunned silence. The display screen showed the same impossible image: one human ship surrounded by 50,000 alien vessels. Yet somehow, the humans held all the power. Commander Velthok's 4 eyes moved between the faces of his allies. General Mordok's thick armor plating had turned a sickly green color, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Admiral Zixara's crystal body flickered with chaotic patterns of light. The representative from the Kethmori looked like his bark was wilting in real time. "This is insane," General Mordok muttered, his 6 arms gesturing wildly. "One ship. Out. One single ship has made our entire armada meaningless." "The weapon they used?" whispered the Veltari science officer. "It shouldn't be possible. Matter doesn't just convert to energy like that. It violates everything we know about physics." Admiral Zixara's voice rang out like breaking glass. "We cannot fight what we do not understand. Their technology is so far beyond ours that we might as well be throwing rocks at them." "But we have 50,000 ships," protested the hegemony commander. "Surely that must count for something." "It," Velthok asked quietly. "If they can turn asteroids into artificial stars, what do you think they can do to our ships?" The room fell silent as everyone considered this terrifying possibility. Their shields, their armor, their weapons, all of it might be useless against technology that could rewrite the fundamental rules of reality. "They said they have 17 more ships like that one," added the tactical officer. 17 ships that can destroy entire star systems. General Mordok slammed his fist on the table. "They've only been in space for, what, 200 years? How can they have developed such advanced technology?" "Maybe that's exactly why," suggested Admiral Zixara. "We've been using the same military strategies for millions of years. We build bigger ships, more powerful weapons, larger fleets. But the humans, ... they think differently."
Commander Velthok
stared at the tactical display showing the lone human vessel. The Serenity sat peacefully in the center of their formation, not moving, not threatening, just waiting. It was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "the human captain is requesting a response." Velthok activated the communication channel. "Captain Kim, we need time to consider your terms." "Yeah." "Have 1 hour," came the calm reply. 1 hour. 60 minutes to decide the fate of the largest military coalition in galactic history. Velthok looked around the table at his fellow commanders. Each one represented hundreds of years of military tradition, countless victories against other species, proud histories of conquest and expansion. "What are our options?" he asked. "We could attack," suggested General Mordok, though his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe if we hit them with everything at once. ... And accomplish what?" Admiral Zixara interrupted. "They've already shown us what their weapons can do. Do you want to see what happens when they aim at ships instead of asteroids?" The Kethmori representative spoke up. "What about retreat? We could withdraw and plan a different approach." "Retreat?" General Mordok's mandibles clicked angrily. "We came here to end the human threat once and for all. The human threat." Velthok laughed bitterly. "We're the ones who traveled to their home system with 50,000 ships. From their perspective, we're the threat." "But they're expanding into our territory," protested another commander. "Are they?" Velthok asked. "Are they just exploring empty space that we happen to claim?" The debate continued, but everyone knew the truth. They had come here expecting to fight a conventional war against a weaker enemy. Instead, they had discovered that the enemy was far stronger than they had imagined. Time was running out, and the choice was becoming clear: retreat with their dignity intact, or face the consequences of challenging a species that had transcended. Traditional warfare, the 57 minutes had felt like an eternity. The conference room of the Eternal. Dominion Commander Velthok stood before the tactical display one last time. The lone human ship still sat in the center of their formation, patient and unmoved. Around the table, the representatives of 12 species had finally reached their decision. "Signal the fleet," Velthok ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "All ships, begin withdrawal procedures. We're leaving. The response was immediate. Across the massive alien armada, engines that had been idle for hours suddenly roared to life. The perfect formation that had taken days to arrange began to break apart as ships turned away from the Sol system. Some vessels moved quickly, eager to escape the range of the terrifying human weapon. Others departed slowly, their commanders. Still struggling to accept what had happened, General Mordok's voice crackled through the communication system. "This is a mistake. We should fight." "With what?" Admiral Zixar replied sharply. "Our weapons are useless against their technology. We would be committing suicide." "Better to die fighting than to run like cowards," Mordok insisted. "Better to live and learn from this experience," Velthak cut in. "We underestimated them completely. If we attack now, we'll lose everything." On the bridge of the Serenity, Captain Kim Jae watched the alien fleet begin its retreat. His crew maintained their professional calm, but he could see the relief in their eyes. They had succeeded in avoiding a war that would have cost millions of lives. "Lieutenant Park," he said quietly, "open a channel to the alien flagship." "Channel open, sir?" The view screen flickered to life, showing Commander Velthek's defeated expression. The alien commander's 4 eyes were dim, his blue scales pale. "With exhaustion?" Captain Kim Velthak began, "Our fleet is withdrawing as requested." "You have your victory." "This wasn't about victory," Jay replied. "This was about preventing unnecessary death and destruction." Velthak was quiet for a moment, watching his ships disappear into hyperspace. "I must ask you something before we part ways. Why demonstrate restraint? Could have destroyed our entire fleet before we even knew what hit us. Why give us the choice to retreat?" The question hung in the air between them. On the bridge of the Serenity, every crew member listened carefully to their captain's response. This moment would define how the galaxy remembered humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage, because we learned long ago that the greatest strength isn't in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose when not to use it, Jay said simply. The words hit Velthek like a physical blow. In all his years of military service, he had never heard a conqueror speak about restraint. Power was meant to be used, enemies were meant to be crushed, and victory was meant to be absolute. Yet here was a species that had developed the ultimate weapon and chose not to use it. "Your species is different," Velthak admitted. "We will remember this lesson." "I hope so," Jay replied. "The galaxy is big enough for all of us to explore in peace." The communication ended, and the last of the alien ships jumped to hyperspace. In a matter of minutes, Sol system was empty, except for the Serenity and the distant glow of Earth's sun. Chief Engineer Li Han looked up from his console. "All systems normal, Captain. The quantum field generators are powering down." "Well, done, everyone," Jay said to his crew. "Navigation, set course for Earth. Let's go home." As the Serenity turned toward the blue-green planet that had given birth to humanity, news of the encounter spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. The age of massive space fleets was over. The age of human restraint and wisdom had begun. 3 months had passed since the Sol incident, and the entire galaxy was still trying to make sense of what had happened. The massive assembly hall in the neutral world of Nexus Prime had never seen so many species gathered in one place. Representatives from over 400 different civilizations filled the tiered seating, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, color changes, and telepathic waves. At the center of it all stood the Council. Speaker, an ancient being whose species had been mediating galactic disputes for thousands of years. His voice carried the weight of history as he addressed the crowd. "Fellow beings," he began, his words automatically translated into hundreds of languages. "We gather today to discuss an event that has shaken the very foundations of our understanding. The Sol incident has changed everything we thought we knew about warfare, diplomacy, and power itself." A murmur rippled through the assembly. Every species present had heard the story, but many still couldn't believe it. A single human ship had faced down 50,000 alien vessels and won without firing a shot in anger. Military doctrine developed over millions of years has become obsolete overnight, the speaker continued. The rules of engagement that have governed galactic conflicts since the dawn of civilization no longer apply. In the front row, Commander Velthax sat with his head bowed. The proud warrior who had once commanded the largest fleet in galactic history now served as a living reminder of how quickly everything could change. His species had been forced to completely rethink their approach to military strategy. The humans didn't just demonstrate superior technology, the speaker explained. They demonstrated superior wisdom. They could have destroyed the entire Veltari coalition, but they chose restraint instead. Admiral Zixara's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. What does this mean for the rest of us? If humanity can build weapons that make entire fleets obsolete, how do we defend ourselves? That's exactly the wrong question, interrupted a new voice. The assembly turned to see a human representative stepping forward. Ambassador Park Soyoung had been appointed to speak for Earth at this historic gathering. The humans aren't interested in conquest, she said calmly. We're interested in exploration, in learning, in peaceful coexistence. The Serenity wasn't built as a weapon of war. It was built as a statement of intent. General Mordok's voice boomed across the hall. Statement. That you can destroy any of us whenever you choose. A statement that we choose not to, Park replied. That's the difference you're missing. Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, Captain Kim Jae sat in his quarters aboard the Serenity, writing his final report about the encounter. The ship floated peacefully in Earth's orbit, its revolutionary technology now known throughout the galaxy. Mission accomplished, he wrote. Hostile fleet deterred through demonstration of capability and restraint. No shots fired in anger, no lives lost. Recommended action. Continue peaceful exploration protocols. His report was simple, but its implications were enormous. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as a species that had learned to combine ultimate power with ultimate responsibility. Back on Nexus Prime, the council speaker was reaching his conclusion. The age of massive space fleets is over. The age of quality over quantity has begun. Humanity has shown us that the most powerful weapon isn't the one that can destroy the most enemies, but the one that can prevent war altogether. The assembly sat in stunned silence. They were witnessing the birth of a new era, one where a single ship could change the fate of the galaxy simply by choosing not to use its terrible power. The humans had proven that sometimes just one ship was enough to change everything. The galaxy would never be the same.